Welcome to the Postmodern Polymath Podcast. This is episode 131, and I want y'all to notice that someone isn't here. Oh, look, it's Lyman late again. Go figure. So, Zach is joining us, friend of the show, and the beer god.
Drinking for two.
And he's drinking for two. No, he's not pregnant. He's just an alcoholic.
Is that a t-shirt I could get?
That's that's pretty clever. That's pretty clever if I do say so myself. So,
You did.
What's going on, Zachariah? Zachary? The Zach Meister?
Just having, I didn't have a guest last week, so I felt bad, but I had on Jessica Bloomkey of the Friendly Atheist podcast. You know, Hemet Meta is like the co-host that everybody knows, but she actually was the one who initially came up with the idea for the show. So I had her on last night, which was, fun. She's also was on God Awful Movies this week, so might get a little more attention for that one.
You're fancy.
I just wanted to know, what was it like to... I didn't make the joke like, hey, did you have to do a fake laugh? Because it actually sounded like she legitimately laughed, but it seems like a lot of the Puzzle and Thunderstorm shows, you don't know how prepped it is. So I was like, well, what is it like to do one of those shows? Because they reviewed a 90-minute terrible Christian movie, and the show itself is 2 hours. And I'm like, well, you have to record for longer than that. So
yeah, I don't know.
I like the concept, but sometimes I don't know about listening to a show when I haven't actually seen the movie. And most of the movies they do are pure flicks where you'd have to get some sort of subscription. You probably could get them illegally. You don't, because admitting that would be, no one would do that. I mean, I wouldn't know anyone who would know how to do that for that sort of thing. But
Tee-hee.
Yeah, this got a little. This is
Oh yeah, what are you drinking on, by the way?
Okay, so I did buy some beer last week. Hard to believe. So this is from Pontoon, Decadent Moose, chocolate and orange, sweet stout. It's a little bitter, the thing is when, somebody does something that's that says chocolate and wants to be dark chocolate, well, it's just their excuse for the bitter flavor.
Yeah.
And then it has orange, but it's almost more, it's probably easier to do orange peel, when you're actually brewing beer as opposed to orange. So it has that, it reminds me, there was a reserve of Dragon's Milk that was that flavor. So it's similar to that. And I got a beer from Oregon, Ale Song. So this is
that sounds like
a raspberry rhino suit. So it's a Imperial milk stout aged in bourbon barrels with the raspberries.
So there you go. I've had two. I had a Big Luscious, which was absolutely disgusting. It tastes like cough syrup.
Big Luscious. Which one was that?
That's Founder's dark chocolate raspberry.
I think I got that. Yeah, I don't remember much about it, so clearly it wasn't that good.
And then I got another one recently. I don't remember. I have so many fuck stouts. I don't even fucking. I did have a Girl Scout Tagalog cookie stout from Pontoon, which they're dropping everywhere around here. So
yeah, they do. It's every kind. I had the one that was the Samoans. I just, you like getting the singles, and usually the places I go to only have 4-packs, so I take a chance. But that's not.
Whoa! Wait a minute! It's the Liminator.
Whoa!
Well, miracles never cease. I didn't have to tell me 100 times. Wait a minute, my setup ain't working right. Actually, he's not. No, his microphone's muted. That's the only thing.
The funny thing, when I went to the liquor store, I was looking for the peanut butter chocolate Dragon's Milk, and the guy said, "Oh, it's a really good peanut butter chocolate beer. It's the Sweet Baby Jesus," which I remember getting when I was at ReasonCon and not liking at all. So I was like, "Yeah, not really."
It's your choice is suspect.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the Tailgate's
He's
the
here.
one I go to. Oh, so Lyman, how's it going, Limey?
It's going. Tired.
king of leftist Twitter, apparently.
I know. You're leading a lot of people Chris's way. Is that good or bad?
Yes, you have made me
The answer is
popular with 154 likes on a tweet. That's never happened to me before.
Not that he's counting.
That's quite a bit.
Actually, I am counting.
When you get in the rarefied air of Devin Nunez's cow, then you know you have caught Twitter fire.
Yes.
I'd rather have him than Ben Shapiro, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well.
And I said, please, such your fascist pie hole. Oh, and Patriot Takes tweet is used in the article. Yes, I piggybacked off him a little bit, maybe.
Sure.
That's okay. But it was used in the article.
Yeah. Patriot Takes, Veteran Yoda, and a few other people. We have a chat going, and then Devin Nunez, Cow, Patriot Takes, and some other people that are. We have a Discord chat going for some of our other activities. So yeah, it's become a free for all, especially with those cartoons.
And it's a 3D cat butt just for you.
Oh, Jesus. Lyman comes on, and there's the cat butt right on top.
I have that effect.
I just know.
So, yeah, 185, excuse me. 17 retweets and 2 quoted retweets.
That's a good deal.
So,
I like it.
I'll never get that kind of... No, you got the one with like fucking 3,000 or some shit like that.
I don't remember what it ended with for the day, but I think it was over 3,000 likes and like 900 something retweets. And I don't know, like 50 or 60 comments or something. But a lot of that was just banter.
Hey, nothing wrong with
It's cool. I'll take it.
All
right. What? Are you drinking beer tonight, Lyman? Or
Nope.
anything?
I'm drinking, let's see, what am I drinking? Orange pineapple seltzer and Coke Zero.
Oh my god.
Wow.
That's my quarterly soda. I
Just
don't really
go
drink
get
a
your
lot of soda.
fucking walker now, you fucking old ass motherfucker.
Oh, man, my bones are feeling it today.
How you guys get along? It's something else. Just be drinking some kind of like Antifa like sponsored IPA. That would just Chris wouldn't know what to do.
Oh, I can think of a couple of things. Well, you used a can for a Molotov cocktail.
I mean,
Oh, really? I didn't know that's how you did it.
Sure.
The
Why not?
recycled aluminum is kind of thin. I don't know if it'd be so good.
Well, you make it a little tougher.
glass is ideal. so
Well,
it
yeah, no,
shatters.
you bottle them. You bottle it.
Oh, yeah.
And it comes with, and the label is like you can peel it off and use it as a igniter or whatever.
We could just like package some Everclear type thing in there, and like you could technically, it'll be high enough to catch fire, but low enough to like not kill you, like Everclear will, if you drink a lot of it.
Jesus God, go blind drinking that shit.
Dude, through the pandemic, when you couldn't find any Lysol or anything, we went to the liquor store, the county liquor store, and bought like 2 handles of Everclear because I was basically taking that, doing like an 80-20 mix with that and water, and soaking like citrus peels in it as a disinfectant, so it didn't smell like alcohol. So it was basically a citrus scented 80% Everclear disinfectant because you couldn't find anything. It was all sold out.
I feel like this recipe's in the Anarchist Cookbook.
Yeah, really.
Mhm.
It sounds like
I think, Lyman, you have the goal of having something named after you, like a Molotov cocktail. So think of names like that.
All right, that's fair. Maybe we could start a Twitter poll.
Lyman Spritzer or something, you know. Fucking Lyman Spritzer! Eat it, fascist!
it's actually not a bad idea. All right, so let's jump into
Yell snowflake and they just like freeze. And... No!
Oh God!
Oh no.
It's early. Just wait. I have one that you'll like later, but I want to save it up.
You gotta save it.
All right, so for some reason, hold on. All right, there it is. So the article I tweeted was from HuffPost, and it was because the queen of Colorado guns, that annoying, fascist redneck Barbie doll bitch.
Hashtag Lauren Boebert is so dumb.
Yeah. Rep Lauren Boebert in Colorado somewhere. I'm not even sure.
District 3, Boulder, Durango.
That's right.
Yeah, Boulder.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's the connection, right? Okay, so y'all, of course, already know about the shootings or the mass shooting that happened in Boulder a couple days ago. It was 10 people were killed, and I found out it was actually it was a Syrian. Yeah, he's just like a second generation Syrian or something. No, he came over as a kid, I think. So he's a naturalized citizen. So I'm waiting for the right to jump all over that. But
they're already working on that.
Yeah. If it was a white guy, they'd be cool with it, like the other shooter. Where was that at again?
Georgia,
Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta with all the shit. How can I?
In Marjorie Taylor Greene's area.
I used to live close to, because he went down. The first place was Cherokee County, which is like north of here, and then it was like Buckhead, which is close to downtown, which is where I used to live. And yeah, I was drive by these salons because they always have like the same name or similar names. It would always be Gold Spa, Happy Spa, Incense Spa, nothing dramatic. And then the guy,
of course not. Yeah.
The guy came in and shot up 3 of them, and then it turned out he was 3 places, 8 people died. I don't know if more people got shot or not. Usually with these, especially with the kind of guns they use, it's like more people end up dying later. But I don't think anyone else has. But yeah, it was really intriguing that like Glenn Greenwald made a big deal of like, well, the police have said that there's no racial element to it. It's like, well, take the police's word for it and then laugh heartily, ha ha ha, at all the politicians on the left who say anything ever.
Fucking great.
It's like there's a narrative that you're going for, and it helps you.
The first thing the sheriff described the situation as is the guy was having a bad day.
No, we're talking about
the sheriff of Georgia.
Right.
And what's interesting about this is like Marjorie Taylor Greene to this day has not said literally a single word about that shooting, but within under 30 minutes of the press release of the Colorado shooting, she was talking about like immigration, and like she put the guy's name up and was saying that basically, Colorado has all these basically like all of these things that everyone wants for gun laws, but it still allowed whatever that guy's name is, which is definitely a Syrian name, to kill Americans, like low key implying that he's an immigrant, not an American. Like she's already on that shit with under 30 minutes of his name being released. She still has not acknowledged the 8 Asian Americans that were gunned down by a white dude.
Nobody cares about Asians, dude. She's all about the white fucking Klan, Confederate, neo-Confederate.
Oh, she's
racist.
She's like, it's not like, she's racist. Like she's genuinely racist, and she's anti-Semitic too.
I'm surprised she hasn't used it, because Boebert, I think, has already used the shooting as an excuse to like fundraise. And every time like Marjorie Taylor Greene has been like someone pushed to get her kicked out of her committees, which she did, and then there's someone actually making a push to get her kicked out of office. And every time that happens, it's like, give me money. And it's like, I'm a person of the people. It's kind of like Ted Cruz, like her husband or they run like a CrossFit gym. Like they have lots of money. Like most of these people, Josh Hawley from Missouri is another good example, or like they pretend they're like of the people, but they went to Ivy League schools and they're rich, and they're just like, what's the easiest way to make a lot of money? Oh, be in the right wing, because you never have any responsibility for anything you do. Ted Cruz runs the Mexico, and 2 weeks later he's trying to lecture people about getting rid of guns.
Do you know how much the base salary is for a person in the House of Representatives?
It's $174,000.
That's exactly right, per year. So
decent.
I mean,
plus you probably have some decent perks like that. I know the insurance is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like no, but I mean, think about this. Like,
it's not Obamacare.
If you look at what MTG and Boebert do, it's literally nothing, or just like do random bullshit to like basically troll the processes in when they're in session, and literally aid and abet and support sedition and insurrectionists and things
Well,
like that. But like every time something happens, like Boebert just tries to fundraise. And I was I was in Parlor looking at her feed, and she's like fundraising, like she's got like 3 or 4 fundraising posts like every few days. And people are like, so what's the money for? Because it'll be like, well, they're trying to like pass this equal rights voting, blah, 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 blah. Let's see if we can donate $17.76 and raise
oh my
$30,000.
God.
And people are like genuinely asking, like, what is the money for? Like, how does donating money help any of this?
Who's asking that though?
People that follow her. Like,
Really?
these are
Because
some of them are trolls. Some of them I like went through their profiles, and they are very much so like Trump Republicans, but they're becoming disenfranchised with some of these people slowly. That is actually happening.
okay, I'll take your
So
word.
you going in like Parlor using like a kind of a fake ID, or you coming in as yourself? Because I was thinking,
Oh, no.
I just read a book, Talia Lavin, called Culture Warlords, and a lot of it's about her because she has a Jewish background, and she went into these like alt-right circles, like trying to be the perfect like white princess so that she could draw them out. And I was wondering, is that similar to like, are you just keeping an eye on people?
I usually keep an eye on people.
Or just to keep an eye on what people are saying when they don't think of people are paying attention.
I have 2 accounts. One is as my Twitter persona. One is absolutely nothing to do with it. I have no pictures, no nothing. I rarely post, but I'll go in and just like troll through these things. I have a Telegram account. I have a Mayway or Miwi or however you say it account. I have a Gab account.
Oh, damn.
And like we just go through and just watch.
On the cutting edge. If you showed a picture of you drinking that pineapple seltzer, you'd be out, man.
Yeah,
I'd be like,
I don't know. They probably like White Claw. Like all of a sudden,
oh God.
I was at a liquor store and there was a woman talking to a guy, and it was like a 10-minute conversation about all the different like alcoholic seltzers out there. And I was just like, I gotta go somewhere else. I can't be here anymore.
All right. Well, let's.
I'm gonna start breaking bottles.
Let's
Fighting
read
the man.
let's read the actual tweet here. As we continue to hear the news coming out of Boulder, I'm praying for the police, first responders, and those affected by this tragedy. May God be with us as we make sense of this senseless violence. And may we unify and not divide during this time. And for some reason, she has a separate personal account, which she also uses.
yeah.
Which is my prayers are with the shoppers, employees, first responders, and others affected by the shooting in Boulder. May God be with them. While we are still awaiting important information like it's a brown person and details in this case, random public shootings and senseless acts of violence are never okay, even though your ass basically just wants to give out guns to people as a fucking, party favor or some shit like that.
I mean, basically.
So, I mean,
Colorado's had like 3 of the. I think they said the guy who did the shooting in Boulder was born like 3 days after Columbine happened, and it's like Columbine happened, and there was the Aurora shooting where the guy shot up at the movie theater.
Oh yeah,
Congrats,
he had
you
his
got
hair
3.
dyed, and let's see. So yeah, there was Columbine, there was the Aurora. I think there was another one, but it wasn't as publicized. And then there was this one. They've had at least like 3 very public ones since Columbine, and a couple others. But like, it's hard to keep track of them all because I mean, I think our record for mass shootings in a short period of time was 3 in 2.5 weeks. If I remember from the last time we looked, but it's like, and then I don't know if there was one in Georgia. Texas has had all kinds of like silly stuff go on down there, and then obviously Sandy Hook, and then there was the Vegas shooting, which is still the deadliest at 61 casualties.
okay, so Let me read some of these responses. Of course, one of them, like I said, was Parlor Takes. Patriot Takes. One of these is, I don't know, some Trish Zornio. For once in your goddamn life, stop flapping your thumbs. I like that. People like you are directly responsible for my friends, my family, and my community being put in harm's way. Your anti-science, gun fetish, trigger the libs, divisive bullshit needs to stop now. You're literally killing people. I like that. I remember that. And trigger the owning the libs thing is a narrative that I've realized, and I heard it. I don't know if anybody's watched any of the QAnon miniseries that HBO's doing.
About an episode in.
Basically, I mean,
Of course, you two are watching it.
Well, yeah, duh. And their whole thing is just like they have no like policy ideas, nothing. They just own the libs, basically, is their whole like policy position, right? And they don't have anything because they know all their shit sucks.
I mean, there was a neighbor down the road who had a Trump flag, and it said 2020 Trump, make liberals cry again. And at least the guy had like enough self-awareness to actually take it down after election day. Like, there are people around the country, but it's like, it is very negative. You know, it's like you see people like the Trump, they go back and see him talking about healthcare, and he's like, well, in 2 weeks, I'll show my healthcare plan. He said that for 5 years. And then there was nothing, there's nothing positive. Like ask the conservatives who are fighting against any kind of gun regulation. And gun regulation is very far away from like taking away everybody's guns. I mean, it even says in the Second Amendment, well-regulated militia. It doesn't say do whatever the hell you want. Everybody gets 10 cannons, based on what they had back then.
And we could argue against how a militia doesn't necessarily mean everybody in the grandmother.
But at the end of
like a local group who was like for defense before we had our crazy.
It was pre-military
$8 billion army.
Yeah.
We had a standing military until like World War II. I mean,
what did they have? They had like blunderbusses and fucking,
They had black powder muskets and stuff.
They didn't have shit. I mean, they weren't thinking of fucking AR-15s,
The thing is, at the end of the day, like, people get so marred down in like trying to discuss and debate, like, well, it should just be muskets, or what does this mean? What does that mean? It's like, at the end of the day, there's 390 million guns in the United States. There's about 330 million people, and it's like, at the end of the day, we're not going to get rid of all the guns. And no one's even trying to, like, genuinely. Like, you see a few people like talk about it, but not people making policy, and not with any sincerity. And it's like, if you're a gun owner and you consider yourself to be a responsible gun owner, like, it goes beyond making sure that you are being safe and you are not harming people, because like, to have the right in existence and have it means you're also somewhat responsible for trying to make sure that the existence of the right does not inflict harm on people in society. And it's like, I don't understand. Like, I own firearms, and it's like, if I want my firearms and I don't want stricter stuff, or for like, say, for someone to be taken away, it's in my best interest to try to do things to make sure bad things don't happen. So swifter, more strict, firmer things don't happen down the road.
Right. So, yes, I don't,
responsibility is not really allowed. But I do want to ask, okay, Lyman, I was going to save it, but I'll bring it out now. So what is the term that Hassan Piker uses for guns?
What? I don't know what.
He refers to guns as murder dildos.
Wait, who is this guy anyway?
He goes by Hassan Hobby on YouTube. I listen to his stuff a lot. I think I've seen him as Hassan Piker.
Hassan Piker.
A very left-wing guy. And actually, he was doing the thing on Boulder, and he was talking about, like, he shot guns. He thinks it's fun to shoot guns. But, owning guns like this, it's all about responsibility. Like, you own a car, you have to have insurance, you have to get a license, you have to actually pass a test, and to have a gun. I mean, the guy who shot all these people in Atlanta bought the gun the day of, and the guy who bought the gun in Boulder, I think, bought it last week. They just
Yeah.
the judge just passed, like they were like banning like certain rifles, and the judge was like, nope. And that was what he used, the AR-15. I think he had a handgun too.
Yeah, basically, yeah, they had passed legislation to, I mean, just, I don't know all the specifics, but we could just categorize it as like an assault weapons ban. And it went to court. The judge was like, nope, and struck it down. And the guy bought the rifle he used that same week that was struck down. It would have prevented the sale of it. And it's like, is it the big argument I always see is it's like, well, he didn't follow the law, so why would another law stop it? And it's like, well, yeah, if you're hell bent on breaking the law, like you're gonna find a way to break the law.
I mean, you could say that literally for literally anything, right?
Yeah, like we all lock our doors, right? Because like there's certain people that might try the doorknob, and if it's open, they might like see if anyone's home and walk in. But it's like a different level of trouble, dedication, and risk to somebody to smash a window or kick in a front door. Or like if you really wanted to buy it because you can't buy it at the store, to have an illegal arms sale with a private seller, or to go like black market and spend $1 bazillion on, something. Like, it's not about perfection. It's about added steps with higher risk and more effort, which most people are not really into, going to prison for stupid stuff like buying weapons from an undercover agent.
I don't know. All those fuckers that went to the damn Capitol riots or whatever didn't seem too much to care about it.
Those are genius. Well, I honestly don't think that I thought that they believe, a lot of them, not all of them, some are just shitheads. But I think a lot of them genuinely thought that they would do this, and that since Trump was like in their mind, basically commanding them to do this or encouraging it as president, that they would be pardoned. There's a lot of people that are like, there's a woman, I forget her name, but I think she was from Texas, like a really rich person that flew in on a private jet and all this stuff. And she was like talking about on camera, like how she was certain that Trump was going to pardon them. And it's like, no, man, you got played.
Good.
I mean, the guy who wore that crazy outfit with the face paint and all that, he said the same thing. Like he thought he was
eating vegetarian diet.
He thought he was going to get pardoned, and he didn't. And the only people who got pardoned were the higher ups and like Roger Stone, but he didn't get pardoned for the Capitol riots. We'll see if they actually go after him. It's like, yeah, the actual will to go after people involved in that. We'll see how strong that is.
And I don't know. I'm not going to claim to know who's going to go to prison and all this stuff, but with all of the FBI stuff where they've talked about like seizing some Senate and House people's like phone data and stuff like that in relation to this, like they're going through stuff. Like they're really going through stuff. I think it is plausible that we see at least one person who is sitting in office, or some of these people that were sitting in office that are saying, oh, I'm not going to run for re-election. Like, I think we're going to see some people either directly or adjacent to those folks like get dinged. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's going to take a long time. That's a lot of people and a lot of stuff to go through for like a year, 2 years worth of crap to see, who conspired, who did what. But I think Roger Stone's going to get fucked.
Good.
I genuinely there's like 500 people involved, and I can't remember because initially it was like very few people had been arrested, but I think now it's like a couple hundred.
Yeah, it's like a couple hundred of the people attended. They're still identifying people.
Not the kind of they're going to talk because they think they're covered. I got the secret magic QAnon word of the week.
Well, and I'll tell you what, if I was them, and like I went in there thinking like, oh, this is what our president wants us to do, and then I realized real quick that this is not happening, 100% would I like turn state witness and be like, all right, let's cut a deal. Like, I don't want to go to prison for the next
that's what the Proud Boys are doing, I think. Didn't they catch the guy running them
oh yeah,
like FBI informants?
Yeah, that Enrique Turquino is the guy's name. He was arrested I think it was a week or two within 2 weeks prior, when the Proud Boys were stomping around out there tearing down Black Lives Matter stuff off of churches in DC. and stuff like that. And he got arrested he had some sort of weapon magazine on him, and some sort of ammunition. Didn't have a weapon, but they just got a whole bunch of stuff like in the last 24 hours that they released between the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys, like communications through social media of them talking about showing up and how the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers can come together and like they can wait here and do this and flank people and it'll be over and all this stuff. Like there's a big like genuine conspiracy, not like the kooky conspiracy, but like the legal conspiracy situation that's going on. That's all. A lot of it's on Twitter right now.
Unsurprisingly. Let me read a couple more of these tweets. And there's two of this kind, but this woman owns a restaurant called Shooter's Grill in Rifle. And the name of the town's Rifle, Colorado, where the staff is encouraged to open carry. That's fun. I like that. And let's read Patriot takes. And he said, no pics of you and a bunch of guns this time? That was the... Thanks, Patriot Takes, for me piggyback off you for my 5 minutes of fame.
That was the weird back. Like she had, like her Zoom background was just a bunch of guns behind her, and it was like you didn't know if they were loaded, and it seemed not very safe. It's like, let me just have a bunch of knives behind me, and then maybe one will fall on me.
There's one interesting thing I forgot about. Is a week ago. And this is from Christina Radish. A week ago, the NRA celebrated an overturned ban on assault weapons in Colorado. I did not know that.
Yeah, that was the one that the judge overturned right before the guy bought his gun. And shot up Boulder.
Right. Okay, that's what you were talking about. Okay, that just blows my mind. And although, like I said, I haven't heard any major backlash yet against the brown people. I'm sure it's coming. I don't know. Who knows? Who the fuck knows? I mean, it's hard to tell. When you get guns and brown people, who do you hate worse? He had an AR-15, right? So he's awesome, but he's also brown, right? So
that's about right.
How does that work?
The thing that Lauren Boebert is tweeting a lot about, and it's like. I mean, she hasn't quite said the quiet parts out loud, but you can read between the lines where she's like, whatever the shooter's name was, went and he didn't follow the laws, and she lists out like all the laws that they have in Colorado, which some of them she misstates, but that's beside the point. And she's like, maybe the Democrats should worry more about the illegal immigrants and illegals, at the border than, the guns. Because basically saying like this foreigner is the way she paints it out, is like he did this, the laws didn't help, but there's foreigners down south that are kind of implied association because anybody who's brown just gets globbed together.
Well, he was a naturalized citizen, so
yeah.
I mean,
he's as American as anybody else. I mean, then again, these are the people that think like Guam is like not part of the United States. Guam's a foreign country, so it's like
that's completely considering some people think New Mexico is not a goddamn state.
What? Wasn't that like Marjorie Taylor Greene said something about it? It was like Puerto Rico or Guam. It was like, and you're outside the country. It's like there's this thing called territories.
It was Guam, I think.
Yeah, she said stuff like implying that Puerto Rico was like, receiving foreign aid, and I'm like,
Jesus.
I'm like, holy shit! Like,
well, she had the Guam representative of Guam coming up to her and correcting her ass.
Yeah, they have representation, but not the taxation. I don't know. One of them.
That's DC too, where they're trying for DC statehood, but that's another issue. All right, so we're just going to wrap
and your issues.
Yeah, I know. So this particular issue, we're going to wrap up and say gun control now. Of course, this is always, what's the Onion article they always post? Every time this shit happens, how could we ever prevent this in a country where, what was it? I forgot. The only country this happens, we can never make it stop in the country, literally the only country where this happens all the time, because we like shit guns everywhere, so.
Well, and this graphic, I don't know if it's going to wash out because of the camera.
Yeah,
Shit.
no.
I'll try to put it up. I'll put it on my Twitter, but it's basically an American flag with the infinity symbol under it, and above it says mass shooting, and then an arrow. It's a giant cycle. It says mass shooting, thoughts in Paris, Facebook debates, everyone forgets, Congress does nothing, crickets chirping, mass shooting.
Yeah,
blah, 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 blah.
yeah,
That's from 2017.
And Biden's there. It's not going to go anywhere. Although I say that if they get balls and get rid of the filibuster, which is by no means a conclusion that I think is going to actually happen, a foregone conclusion, they could pass HR1, the one with all the good shit in it.
I kind of think more likely to happen than not, because there was some stuff. It was yesterday or today that was saying that Biden. I don't want to misquote it, but it was basically saying that Biden seemed in favor of getting rid of the filibuster as a mechanism to fast track like quick change, like with certain things. I mean,
fucking, and then Mitch McConnell's sitting here talking about scorched earth, motherfucker. What else can you possibly do? Scorched earth.
I mean, the whole Merrick Garland thing was. They've done it.
I mean, you've destroyed everything.
He could die. That's like the last thing.
Well, they're talking about he's gonna not run again, maybe. So that would be.
Hope not.
Well, he just won the election, so it's rough. Yeah, I listened to the Daily today, and it was about Joe Biden and his work on getting the assault gun ban that happened in '94 when Clinton was president. And it expired 10 years later, and it led to a lot of what's happened. Like, because of the ban, the Republicans took over the House for the first time. And Newt Gingrich from my state of Georgia, took over, and just this terrible rhetoric has gone unchecked since.
Clinton was basically Republican light, except for, some...
Yeah, it's weird. Like, they have these laws. Like, anytime a Democrat passes something good, it always has, like, an expiration. But like those Republican tax cuts, I don't think they have an expiration. They go all the way.
The Trump ones, there
has to be a way to just push harder,
Well, of course, that's a whole different issue. Democrats.
I mean, 50 years ago and against abortion, and they've turned like where people are afraid to say like they're even pro the right to have an abortion. And it's been people fighting hard for years and losing and looking like idiots, and they are idiots, but
I think
they're winning. So it's something to be said for the willingness to kind of fight and keep going.
It's really the only way. Like all this stuff that like people have been screaming about for decades that has not happened. The only way it's going to happen in some cases, I think, is that literally the old guard, the dinosaurs,
they're going to die
out. Exactly. Like it's one of those things where it's like it's a war of attrition. It's like if you can't convince people to do stuff and try to negotiate, well, the good news is most of these fucking people are not exactly spring chickens. And so they're either going to get sick or retire or die.
Fucking Dianne Feinstein, they're saying privately that she is basically like dementia. She has dementia and shit.
Who's they?
Well, her staff. I mean, other members of Congress, and
she is in her 80s. And
we're not talking about the right wing, like Biden dementia shit.
No. I'm talking about like.
I mean, you do hear it about Biden, but those are the same people who never noticed that Trump could not complete a sentence in 4 years. So
yeah, and Reagan. God, forget about Reagan. He literally had fucking Alzheimer's while he was still in office. You want to talk about stumbling some stairs, motherfucker. Anyway, so we're going to leave that part alone. But suffice to say, what Lyman just said about the cycle of violence, we already know nothing's really going to happen. But I did want to shine a light on Boebert. She needs to go away. She's one of the worst of the worst, but she has a gun for a dildo, so I guess she's not going anywhere.
Can I mention one other thing? That Marjorie Taylor Greene ran unopposed, and she only got 74% of the votes running unopposed. Like literally, if somebody fucking ran, they could do better than that.
Yeah,
they could oust her tomorrow. So people are now running against her. It's like that's the thing that just drove me crazy is like, what did Obama do? There were all these
places where Republicans were running unopposed. Like, at least, even if you're going to lose 75 to 25, like, put somebody out there.
Yeah,
There
when
are
there's
people
supposed to
who
be
will
this
support you no matter where you are. Like,
when there's supposed
you
to be
joke
this
about
big, he was supposed to have this big thing where we were gonna, get people to vote everywhere. We're gonna have this big
this is
strategy.
bitter.
No, you know what happened? Nothing. Not a goddamn thing. Unlike the shit that they did the guy who wrote the whole plan for Republicans to take over state legislatures throughout the country or whatever. This dude had an actual plan, and they got the shit done. They gerrymandered every fucking state legislature to the point where Democrats, even if they win the most votes, they still fucking lose. So, I mean, unless we get some shit like that going, you got no fucking chance of ever fucking overcoming the Republican majority.
Well, and I'll get the names together and stuff like that, and we should tweet it out. But there's a guy and a girl that are running against Boebert in so far, a guy and a girl that are running against Boebert in Colorado, and I think there's at least one person that is going to challenge Marjorie, like. And they seem like rational people. Like, I dug a little bit into them, and like they're
The fact that that's the bar, right? The lowest bar. Well, at least they're rational,
Oh yeah, I mean they're pro. I'm sure that they have some imperfections and all that stuff, but honestly, I don't give a shit about that at this point because we have like QAnon, Jewish space laser, whatever people sitting in Georgia, and we have Boebert, which has a fairly notable rap sheet of like getting arrested even in Mesa, Arizona and stuff like that, and failure to show into court and being arrested again. All this stuff, like, these are not hard people to pick off. And plus, genuinely, they don't do anything. Like, they haven't done anything. The Republicans lose nothing if they go away because they don't do anything.
Yeah, we got one person watching on YouTube.
And there are people to replace them. I have to say this, for anybody who might have negative thoughts about Chris, the human being, Lyman has all of these assets to look into people.
Hold up. Wait,
and he's still showing up and talking to Chris every week. So that's a sign that Chris might be all right,
Wait a goddamn second, sir. I break you on my show more than once.
Well,
I let you bask in the glow of my Twitter infamy, my Twitter fame. I let you
after all
piggyback
of
on
this. Lyman's still like, sure, I'll show up every week with you.
And here you are talking shit. All right, Zach. I see the gauntlet has been thrown. Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
All right. So on that
I'm
note,
trying to get canceled. It's never happened.
We're going to move on to something a little more positive, maybe, is the and this is actually Zach's idea to talk about this was the Amazon unionization push in Bessemer, Alabama, or whatever.
Yeah, Bernie's showing up, which is cool.
Yeah, and Biden actually says something about it, which is unheard of for anybody in any Democratic. Hell, the Democrats abandoned the unions. When Reagan came in, just destroyed it.
Except for police unions, they love those.
Oh yeah, they love the pig unions.
It's weird that in America now, it's like teachers' unions are terrible and they're the worst thing ever, but police unions are pretty,
I mean, they might as well just be on their knees. I mean, just eating the bacon. Sucking the bacon dick. I'm telling you is what's happening right now. But anyway, we're not going to talk about that particular union. We're going to talk about the union in Alabama, who are trying to get Amazon to. I'm sorry, it's just such a tiny ask to be able to unionize in this country, right? When this country used to be like, I don't know the percentage off the top of my head, but this used to be more of a union country. Not enough, but still, there used to be a strong union presence. Now they've destroyed the unions. Reagan started that whole ball rolling when he got rid of the air traffic controllers, within like a month of him becoming president, right? So this push for unionization to me is a positive step, and it looks like it's getting good press. And it's also you're seeing some of the kind of shit the Amazon will resort to to fucking get them from voting for it. Have you seen some of this shit? Some of the petty shit they're doing?
I've been out of touch with that a little bit. I knew that I heard a while back that they were planning on unionizing. There was talks of it, and that's about where I left off.
Well, okay, so there's a couple of, like, for one thing, they're making these mandatory meetings where they have to hear about how unions suck, basically, is what it is. And, of course, the one where they've changed the timing of the traffic light. This kills me. Outside the warehouse, so, you know, they give away the flyers, right? And at the stoplight, right? They give them the flyers to the employees. Well, they changed the timing of the light so like the light lasts like that, and so there's not enough time to give people flyers while they're sitting in line at the traffic light to get in the fucking warehouse.
Serious?
No, go look this shit up. And
No, but that I believe you, but that's like that's next level.
Then Amazon made their own little union drop box. Put your union votes in here. From Amazon. Did it themselves. And people, and there's one, just the kind of shit they will go to. And let's not forget the value of Amazon is astronomical. And the kind of conditions they have in these warehouses is just, you can't stop for a pee break. You have to pee in a bottle and shit.
I've heard that more than one time. And there's like the technology they use, like they have scanners, right? So they have these scanners that people carry, and it tells you, okay, you need to go to like this aisle, this shelf, pick this item. And these warehouses are not like the size of Best Buy. They're like massive. They're like shopping malls worth of like warehouses. So people literally will have to try to get from one end to the other. It tracks if you're moving, how fast you're moving, if you stop, time between picking items. Like if you need a bathroom break, if you can, it will, you basically kind of check out of it till you're like, okay, bathroom break. It times your bathroom breaks, and say it takes you like 5 minutes. Well, let's say it takes you like a total of like 10 minutes because you have to walk all the way to the other end of the campus and then all the way back. Well, that bathroom break is accounted for in your picking statistics. So it's held against you as a metric for your productivity. And so that's why people like are working like, 10, 12, 15 hours, they're peeing in like Gatorade bottles and stuff like that because they don't want to get fired, for having to go, well, I'm too far away from the restroom. So they'll just do that instead. It's like, it's ridiculous. It's fucking absurd.
I mean, the lengths that they're going, and there seems to be, I'm going to look some of the stuff, but there seems to be an issue with, right now, the eligibility of some of the, okay, so the links they go to, the vote will finish on March 29th, which is, 6 days, it's not even a week, it's like 5 days.
Yeah. Next week.
This thing is, Amazon is worth 1.5 trillion. I just want to tell you all that right now.
As a company, yeah.
So that's,
and they've done really well in the pandemic. I mean,
that's insane.
It's been a boon.
Live in a neighborhood, and you see the Amazon trucks more than you see UPS. The more you see like the mail trucks, and they're just contractors doing that. And you see the people who work for Amazon in my neighborhood who are dropping packages off. They get out of the vehicle, they're running. They're not like walking to your house. Like it does seem like they have the same like deal where they're getting like,
yeah. I mean, this apartment complex,
they have something tracking them.
Well, and like just in like the townhouse complex that we're in, I see an Amazon truck come through no less than 3 times a day, like dropping packages off, and they're hustling. Like I'll be sitting there like doing something, and all of a sudden I just hear this like shuffle at the door, and I'm like, huh? And I go like look through the peephole because I don't open my door, and then I look, and there's like a guy already getting back on his truck that's like 30 feet away, and I'm like, Jesus! Like I walked like 8 feet to the door, and you're already getting back in your truck. It's like these people are hustling, and it's
these truck drivers are not considered Well, I'm sorry, those are delivery drivers. There's a little different, but truck drivers not considered Amazon employees, which I thought was interesting.
No, they're
But-
technically independent contractors.
Yeah, there was a story that one of the people killed in Boulder was an Instacart driver, and because he's not considered an employee, he's not eligible to get his funeral costs paid for by his employer. And it's because there's this big
That's-
push for the Ubers and the
gig
Lyfts of the
economy,
world
yeah.
to not consider these people employees. They're just going to be people who work for them, and they can get as little money as possible.
Well, here's a novel
That's what our
idea.
corporate state is aiming for. Whoever
Let's,
gets the most cash wins.
Let's have universal health care. I know that's a stretch, right? I know that's just a novel concept in this country, but perhaps if you have universal health care, then people wouldn't have to worry so much if they have to work 3 or 4 jobs. They would have health care, you know, and they wouldn't have to worry if their kid gets sick or something, you know. But, you know, who am I to question the capitalist overlords in this country?
Well, and I'm curious if that 1.5 trillion that Amazon is worth is counting the other brands that they own outside of it, or if that's just like all the things under the umbrella owned by the company. Because like Amazon owns Twitch, the streaming website. They bought that. What else did they buy? They bought a couple other computer and software related companies, having to do with like some sort of package that they are trying to couple with their Amazon Web Services and stuff like that. Dude, Amazon Web Services.
That's another one. Yeah, they're huge.
Dude, like I think that they've outgrown Google in their like professional hosting.
They've got
Like
to
commercial
because,
hosting.
yeah, they've got to be.
Which like I see all the time, especially like being in DC, like anything government is hosted on Amazon Web Services, like the government division. Like the amount of money that they are raking in, like you could sell their company and like pay for the military and have money left over for a year. Like that's kind of gross to think about.
A lot of money.
Really.
Yeah, it's real money.
So you mentioned Twitch.
Yeah.
They're putting anti-union ads on Twitch. Okay,
Well,
that's craziness to me.
doesn't surprise me.
And in the bathrooms, anti-union signs in the bathrooms as well.
Well, here's a little fun fact. Like most companies, either at the very least for management, they'll have these little like mandatory, middle management meetings and stuff like that, where they train and explain like warning signs of how to spot like potential unionization within your like employees that you manage. Natalie had to sit through like a webinar, like sitting there being like, here are the warning signs of like unionization, and like here's kind of what you should do and who you should report it to and all that stuff. Like, and I remember working at places where you'd have your sit down like orientation stuff, and they'd like slip in there this whole thing about like it's your right to unionize, but here's the bad, and like here's all this other stuff, and like
that should be just illegal. That should be straight up illegal. Because that's just gross to me. I mean, the fact that the tables are slanted, or the playing field is so slanted towards not anti-union shit in this, which is not a surprise. They've been destroying unions.
Dude, that's
for the
part of
last
the reason why
40 years.
That's part of the reason why the cops were put in. Like originally, it was obviously to handle like runaway slaves and to mess with the newly freed black people after slavery. But the other thing was like their other sole function was to suppress dissidents and basically to fuck with the unions, the unionized employees back then. Like that's the role of the police, is like to fuck with poor people and black people and to fuck with any kind of dissident. Like that's why we have police. It was never to keep law and order. I mean, that's not my opinion. That's like verifiable historical fact.
Yeah. So I mean, okay. So the way it has to be 50% of the people who vote, not necessarily the people who are employed at the warehouse. So it's 50% plus one. Amazon cannot rely on voters not turning up. It must instead persuade voters to side with the company rather than with their pro-union coworkers. So I find that interesting.
Well, here's a question. Like, and I genuinely don't know the answer. Like, say you and I, we all worked at Amazon, right? And we get like the 50.01%. So we clear that hurdle. What stops them from like what actually hands over like the levers of power that a union has to the people, as opposed to like Amazon just be like, nah. Like, how do you enforce it?
It is Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama. Yeah, exactly. So, and they are so scared because I remember in Chattanooga, they had the VW plant, and they were terrified of unionization to the point where they had the state senator, I forgot who it was that came down there to fucking try to stump against it or whatever. They were pulling out all the stuff. I think Corker was down there pulling out all the stops trying to get this shit not to fail because they are terrified of unions. I mean anything that that even a little bit challenges the kind of the capitalist pro business oligarchy in this country. They just get fucking terrified because they know once that ball starts rolling, then they know it's going to be hard to stop. And so that's why we get. I mean, people just have to keep pushing on this door, hoping in that fucker because it. I mean, it looks like because Biden is trying to. I forgot the name of the bill. It's a pro labor bill, and I don't remember exactly the provisions, but it is a pro labor bill, and so anything that goes towards that goal to me is. I mean, I know the Biden administration obviously is centrist as fuck, but I mean, it's better than what the Republicans would ever come up with, which would be basically to fucking shoot union organizers in the head. Basically, is what it would come down to.
The most baffling thing to me is how like an average person, like Bob down the street, can think unionizing is a bad thing. Like, and I understand, but I mean, yes, but it's like, they look at like their favorite athletes or all these different, the postal service, UPS, like all these things, like the reason why they get the benefits and like these pay bumps and stuff like that is because they use collective bargaining through the unions.
Yeah, it's like the reason why people have 40-hour weeks now was because of
people forget
unions.
This shit.
Like people got killed to not have 6-day, 12-hour-a-day weeks, which was the case.
They literally killed, like the Pinkertons would come in and fucking beat the living shit out of these people, and in some cases kill them just for fucking speaking up, being union organizers. People need read a little bit of history before they sit there and talk shit. And not to mention the fact that when union wages are high, that means every other, in this instance, the rising tide will lift all the boats as opposed to trickle down bullshit. Yeah, they actually will increase the salaries of the surrounding businesses.
But it's just baffling to me. Like, my mom is an ICU nurse, and when she was in Arizona, they don't have a nurses union in Arizona. She ended up in California, and they do there. And like, obviously unions aren't like this perfect utopia just because there's people involved, but it's like she went from doing the same job, making like basically an extra $20 an hour for the same job with less hours because they, actually like put limits on how many hours they can force you to work, like at once or in totality without, your consent. They can't like float you to another department just willy-nilly. They have to go down like seniority unless they ask you and you say, okay, like she gets like 2 weeks a year to like have time off. If her family gets sick, she gets like a month and a half of just straight vacation time. And then she gets her own sick time and personal time on top of that. And it's like, I don't understand why anybody in any circumstance would be like, you know what? I don't think unions are good because I don't want to be treated better. Like it's baffling.
That's been going on they've been brainwashed. pumped in their heads for generations. That
But it's just
unions-
confusing to me because, like, even if you're a selfish prick, you're like, if I could get
You're a
like more
selfish prick. You want more for yourself. But
Right.
it's like, yeah, if I
Oh, I thought we've
never-
already established this.
it never
country.
comes off as like this, hey, if we work together, then we can do better things. Like, there are more of the poor people than the rich people, and the rich people should be like scared shitless, but they have, the power of the state behind them. They have
and people don't realize
police
like,
behind them. They don't have Chris behind them, but that's okay.
I mean, that's basically
Well,
the
I
secret
could
weapon.
maybe
The
stop
power
some
of the
with my
beard,
beard,
compels you. Yeah.
What's
Put a little-
interesting?
I mean, most conventional weaponry could not. Like a Lyman spritzer could not. Molotov cocktail note, just bounce right off.
It melts steel beams, but not that beard. But it's like, yeah,
That fuel doesn't burn hot enough to melt Chris's beard.
eat some limonite.
See,
I don't know.
we're still workshopping that. It's
All right,
gonna take a
well,
while.
yeah.
It's all right.
It's still in beta.
brainstorm on that.
No, but like I've asked people, like, why would you not want to? Like, I know people that were truck drivers and things, which is very much so unionized and all this, and they're like, unions suck and da 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 da. I'm like, dude, like, they're like, well, you know what? If you want, it shouldn't be like everybody gets paid more. Like, you should negotiate for what you're worth. And I'm like, my dude, I'm like, let me put it to you very succinctly. Like, you walk into a big company and you're like, they're like, we'll give you $20 an hour. And you're like, no, I'm like 35 or 40. They're going to be like, no, you're like maybe 22. And then you're like, no, I'm like 35 or 40. And they're like, bye. Like, you have nothing. Like, what are you going to talk? Like, be like, well, my resume is nice. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like, but if you have an entire workforce that is like, yo, we kind of all need a bump and it'd be really cool if we could have bathroom breaks. And they're like, well, no, then you strike and you shut them down and you force them. It's like, okay, well, you could have paid this little bit of money to like accommodate us and we're happier and we do more work and all this stuff. And we stay as employees that you don't have to retrain and there's value in that. But now you're losing like hundreds of thousands of dollars a minute because your plant shut down, like your warehouse is shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
I wanted to. We got some comments. I know this is a rarity on YouTube actually. They set the wages for him. Laugh out loud. I'm not sure what this is. Daniel Chris. I'm sure this is who has been on the show before. Friend of the show, Daniel Chris. He's starting his own podcast eventually. I forgot what he
about the wilderness.
Yeah, survivalists.
Survival. It's like survival skills. It's like leftist survival skills, and he wanted to take people in like the LGBT and in the Black community and stuff like that, and take them out.
So you can be the memory of the show. How about that? You're not good for anything else, but you can be the memory because I can't remember anything. I'll let you be the memory.
Okay.
So how's it going, Daniel? I hope everything's going okay. We met his brother on the show, and like Lyman said, they're going to be doing the whole survivalist. And he said what they're going to talk about some, I think, mental health stuff too, because everybody's depressed nowadays. It seems like the union sets the wages for non-union workers by increasing the national average rate. That's what I already said that, sir. So yeah. You're just reiterating that. Okay. So correct. Let's put a bow on this. Your thoughts succinctly about the union in Alabama.
Roll Tide.
Okay. That's not the right answer, sir.
Eat the rich.
Eat the rich. Zach?
Okay, I'm with you there.
All right, so Zach, is it...
in Alabama, this is the state where someone got so mad because his football team lost a game that he murdered 100-year-old trees in the Auburn campus. So yeah, watch out, Alabama.
I forgot.
Now imagine if those trees were unionized.
I just finished reading the book from Obituaries, and they did an obituary for the trees that the guy killed, and they had an interview with the guy who did it, who had to actually leave the state. An Auburn fan who left the state of Alabama because he killed 2 trees.
Did he leave the state?
Well, he might have been actually arrested.
The Lorax gonna come get his ass.
Yeah, I know one. I'll give him his
Twitter.
name.
Twitter's got the Lorax, and I talk for the trees. He's one of the leftist army
and the deep state. Let's not get it twisted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so one more Forest for the Trees is that podcast they're looking for.
You're a talker, man.
I know. Tonight I'm on a mission tonight.
Like, dude, I'm out of beer. Come on, you're breaking my heart here.
Forest for the Trees. All right. That's his podcast. So the last thing we're going to talk about, and I promise it just briefly, even though this is the most infuriating, is the trans athlete bill that just passed the House. I believe, I don't know. They passed both chambers at this point, and it's going to the governor, who says he's going to sign it. That prick.
You're talking about in your state, right?
Tennessee.
Yep.
Okay. I was like,
and
feds.
I have the actual text of the bill. Thankfully, well, for now, they're not talking about cupping any balls or fingering any vaginas to see if, somebody's the sex they claim they be.
Well, kudos to them.
I'm being a little bit, crude, but come on. And that's basically what they're talking about. Local education agencies, as introduced, requires that a student's gender for purposes of participation in a public middle school or high school interscholastic athletic activity or event be determined by the student's sex at the time of the student's birth, as indicated on the student's original birth certificate. Now, a couple of things here. The guy who introduced the bill, or one of the sponsors, I think, he said, "Oh, well, yeah, it's never actually happened, but it might happen. One day it might happen."
Yeah, there really aren't that many trans athletes. I think they said it was like 50 out of 200,000 total in the NCAA in every sport that exists. Like, there were a couple, and not surprisingly, they were black, who were supposedly dominating in Connecticut, and they actually have been beaten since then, who caused this. And it's like the right-wing outrage machine got mad because a couple of trans athletes actually have dominated. And it's just like,
well, it's not just here. Georgia's got one. Didn't you say they're actually?
Yeah, Georgia, there's going to be like a group of doctors who are going to check genitals, and it's like, what? Small government, right? And it's like, high school, would any parent agree to this?
I wish, you're in Georgia, I wish a motherfucker would. I would fucking kneecap your ass with a baseball bat before I let you touch my fucking
just
child.
What are you doing for? It's like the Trump thing that I think Reagan initially said about shooting protesters. Do you really root for that? Like, the killing of someone who's on the other side, who's just like, hey, maybe this is not fair. It's just rough, and I feel bad for anyone who's trans, just because it's like your existence is being attacked. Like, you joke hey, white atheists, oh God, it's so tough for us. It's not tough for us. We can quote unquote pass, especially since none of us ever leave the house anymore. Well, maybe the other two you do. Or Chris having to walk up hills. It's a rough time, man. I feel for you. But it's just existing is tough enough.
I'm still
when you have gender dysphoria, and then people attacking you, and people who you think are allies attacking you, and saying, well, maybe this is a thing. And it's like, they get so mad about this. And then when the NCAA basketball tournament starts and they show that the women's tournament was getting less stuff than the men's tournament, all the same people were not mad about that. They did not defend the women anymore. They were defending the women in honor of the women, and the women are like, maybe we could speak for ourselves.
Yeah, really.
There's some that could be supportive, but I don't know. Conservative women are kind of rough.
It's like, people are like, well, women are on average paid X amount less. And everyone's like, that's not true. And they're like, okay, well, we want to govern our own bodies. And they're like, nah. And then suddenly a trans woman is like, hey, I want to play basketball. And they're like, whoa, it's not fair to the women. It's not fair to the women, and suddenly they want to become put themselves out there as champions of the locker room and on the court. And it's like,
there's always a couple, right?
You know who's really bad about it? To bring an earlier people in, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert are both exceedingly bad transphobes.
What?
Yeah, I know, it's weird.
I can't believe it.
Oh yeah, that was the mistake. When the person who's across the hall from Marjorie Taylor Greene, she had like a trans
Oh.
daughter, and then
God.
Marjorie Taylor Greene was like, science proves that trans isn't a thing, and it's like, based on what exactly?
She posted, and then she put
There are
her
only
own
two
fucking
genders.
sign.
The Bible says it. Nowhere.
She's lucky she didn't get punched out. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck.
So there was a Boebert tweet that was going on about like, you know, this roundabout way of like talking about like, you know, the left is calling me dumb because they hate strong women and they hate women, and you know, basically she's trying to put herself up as like a champion of like feminism. And somebody replied to her and said, always good to see politicians stand up for feminism. Which feminist issues are you championing? And her response was, no boys in girls' sports, no men in ladies' rooms, pretty basic. And I'm just like, okay. Well, in other words, no feminist issues. Great. Good to know.
It's just like the same thing as Marsha Blackburn's the queen of this country. And again, I have to reiterate how I loathe this woman as a senator of our state, and loathe this woman as a general principle, but also more so as the senator of the state anyway. So yes, transphobia seems to be quite rampant among, and let's not forget, white women voted for Trump, right? I don't know if it's overwhelmingly, but they did vote for Trump in
I think it was
greater
something
numbers.
gross, like 50%. It was some outrageous percentage where you're like, what? Like, why?
And yes, men, of course, did. And that's not, of course. But
Shocking.
I'm just saying, because black women overwhelmingly voted Democrat, they carried the Democrats, while white women helped elect Trump. That's all I'm saying. Of course, they're trying to take advantage of the patriarchy. They're trying to ride the coattails of that. And that's kind of gross. But
What I just full on can never understand, and maybe it's just because I'm not a fucking bigot, is like, like if somebody, you know, let's just say somebody is, you know, assigned at birth a guy, and you know they're a trans woman now. Like, who gives a shit? Like why would I care? Like in a negative way. Why would I be like, oh well, you know, this person is now a trans woman. Oh my god, like, oh, where do they pee? Like,
it's like if someone just legally changed their name, you wouldn't be like, I'm going to use your old name. Like, why would you do that unless if you're an asshole? Like the people who do the dead name and use the gender that is not what someone's assigned themselves is just like, that's just being an asshole. Like, it's not being considerate. I mean,
but like, why do you even care? Like, I guess that's the thing.
Well,
is
yeah,
like,
the level of caring is a bit higher than it actually is because they don't care about women's sports.
They don't give a fuck.
That wasn't a thing. It's still barely a thing.
And forever, it's been women's athletes have been paid less. They get shittier locker rooms. They get shittier training facilities. Like, you know, it's been like the running thing for a long time where it's like, oh, women's sports is not, you know, women's basketball, WNBA is not as exciting to watch because they're not dunking and shit like that. That's how it's been like forever with these clowns. And it's like, I don't like, if you genuinely, like, I don't know, for lack of a better term, disagree in your heart of hearts with trans people, cool. Like, but to take it and hyperfixate on it and then put that into an action in the world where it's like malevolent, I don't understand it. Like, you can't force somebody's heart to feel a certain way, just like you can't make somebody not be racist or anti-Semitic. But it's like the best we can hope for is for these people to be treated like anyone else with the same protections, and to have these people who are never going to see it differently, like, be scared as fuck to say it out loud. Like, be fucking afraid. Like, I don't care if it's the Nazis, the transphobes. Like, you can't convince people to not feel how they feel. You can try to educate them and change their mind.
Well, that's, education seems
you can try. But if you can't, like, the best you can hope for is like, you know, the Marsha Blackburns and the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, like, being fucking terrified to put the sign up about two genders. Like, they're too bold. They think there's no repercussions. And then,
well, it's like make racist afraid again.
Absolutely.
Or make misogynist, make, bigoted people afraid again. And that's what this all boils down to. Trump enabled all these fuckers, made it think it was safe to fucking talk this shit again. We got to make sure that it's no longer safe for them to talk shit again. And that means busting a motherfucker with a twisted T, then that's what we're going to have to do.
Well,
That's all I'm saying.
I can't wait for us to do it.
Maybe we can get a sponsor.
So, but I kind of wanted to emphasize this point. These are children. These aren't fucking grown people. These are children, right? These aren't fucking. This is high school shit, right? And we're talking about.
There's an especially hard push against trans kids, as if they are being pushed by outside forces, and it's actually better for trans kids to get like puberty blockers if they don't feel like they are the gender they were assigned, because if they go ahead, then they're going to have to go through 2 puberties. Anyone you know who's trans and has transitioned, they've had a second puberty, and it's like,
I would not.
Imagine if it worked out the first time.
You could not pay me.
And there's all these like Abigail Schur and people who are just pushing like, oh, there's this real strong push. Like people are watching YouTube videos and deciding they're trans. Like the lesbians are going away because they're all becoming trans. And it's like,
oh, fucking Glenn Greenwald.
What is that based on? Yeah, I know. Glenn Greenwald was on that too.
This motherfucker.
Substack, baby.
I can't stand that. I don't know what happened to Glenn, man. He used to be a legit dude.
He used to be so good.
And he went off the fucking rails. He's on Fox News all the time, and he's a TERF, and I don't know what the fuck. Anyway, whatever. Maybe being Brazil too much. Maybe what's his name, Bolsonaro, rubbed off on him. I don't know what the fuck's going on. But
it's really confusing. But
like, here's like all I know. Like if there's something that I actively like spend time like going to protest and making a fucking noise about, is because it like genuinely I'm taking away from like literally anything else I could be doing to do that, because it matters. And out of all like anybody, you pick anybody out of a crowd, like we all have all of our own shit. Like I don't have the fucking energy, and I don't know how these people have the fucking energy. Like if some Trump person wants to like, I don't know, like become whatever, like good, go. Just like you're not hurting anybody. Like I don't give a shit. Like I don't understand how these people have such a fucking hard on for like these trans issues and like everything else.
I don't like that. It's a metaphor, but anyway.
Well, it's like they can't feel like they can attack gay people anymore, so they gotta go for trans people.
Exactly.
Like, which marginalized people can they attack? They attack atheists all the time. People don't care, so that's
it's
fine.
Whatever gets it the most play on Fox News and all the the pulpits of fucking evangelical churches or whatever. That's what it fucking boils down to. They need somebody to hate, because without hate, they're nothing. They're just ashes in the wind and shit. They don't have anything.
So I guess the question is, it's like, okay, when gay people got the right to get married and all that stuff, right? Like, I feel like, I mean, obviously there's still fucking bigots and all that stuff. And then you had all the cake baking drama and all that stuff with these bigots. But I do agree, it feels like the ire has been aimed at trans people now. And it's like, what is the thing? Like, because with gay people, like, I think the ability to get married was a big, like, blow to a lot of these arguments. For lack of a better term, it kind of legitimized them in society. They were no longer like these people that existed within it. They were part of it. What is the thing that is going to be a step toward that for trans people?
Well, it's the same thing. One of the things was realized, or these idiots, we already knew that gay people were their neighbors. They were their friends. They were their co-workers, right? These are people they fucking knew already. And that's how that gap was bridged.
That's one of the biggest eye-opening experiences of my podcast career, is having trans people on and just getting to tell their story. It's not me speaking for them. It's them telling their story and what it's like going through, and not just like the part of them being trans that I can't relate to. It's a part of them just being human that I can relate to. Like, just having
That's
common
all
interests.
I mean, that's all it is.
We both hung out and talked about Star Trek or had a beer together and that kind of thing. It's like it does, because there is this otherization that was big during the Trump time, and now hopefully we'll push away. But it's tough because those are big
sleeping on your couch. I have one sleeping on your couch with a cat.
Have one of their cats pee on your carpet, right?
Well,
Yeah.
See, that's human. That's human.
That's connection.
Right, it's human, right? So, and
yeah.
love you, Amy. It's nothing against it.
But I've like given that some thought. It's like before you could see these kind of milestone goals, right? Like for same-sex couples to get married, because that's a big function like in our society, in our governments and laws. Like I can't really, other than it being included in like restrooms and sports, which I can't believe that I have to say that sentence. Like, what is the thing that we can target to chip away toward getting what it should?
I don't know. It's not helping that a large section of the LGBT community is kind of like fuck trans. I mean, they're not like fuck trans people. I got mine. Now fuck them. And it's not I don't know how big of a percentage it is, but I have heard some stories about the trans people kind of being abandoned by the larger movement, and I don't like that. Obviously, I think that's bullshit.
Well, as somebody as we've all been like in the atheist community, it's like we don't have a lot of togetherness all the time, so you could see how that could happen with a group that gets to be really broad. It's like, well, if we just dump this one group, maybe we'll get more stuff done. But it's harsh to be a marginalized group and then like attack another marginalized group, because it's like, shouldn't you have solidarity at least? That's like how like the poor people are somehow getting segregated, because it's like, well, if any white person can think they're better than any person of color, no matter where they are, then they've won. And it's just like, there has to be a way to be like empathy, just like consider the struggles you have in a privileged situation like I have in my life, and I still have struggles. And then to think of someone who's trans and just every day people are just saying you don't exist or you're not real and trying to say it's tough.
Like,
well, go ahead.
I think the people, like, because I know a fella in Florida who is gay that basically has disdain for the entire LGBTQ community, which kind of confused me.
Talk to these people. I don't understand.
Well, it wasn't originally based on that. It was like through gaming and stuff like that.
Okay.
And it came out like a year after knowing this person. But I don't think, like, if you are part of that community and your attitude is basically like, fuck you, me first, like, kind of what a lot of not a lot, but enough people where it's a problem is kind of like they only care about the circumstances that apply to them. It's like, you can't sit there and say, well, I'm gay and, gay people are humans and that's human rights, but then sit there and be like, yeah, but fuck trans people. Like, you can't do that. Like,
I mean, you can.
Yeah, you physically can. But
I think one of the things, and it's sad and it's pathetic, but one of the things, and especially trans women have to deal with this, is the whole idea that and I was watching, and I've got to finish Lady of the Dale, which is, I don't know if you know what this is, a documentary about, it's about this car is a fraud. This car, 3-wheeled car that was supposed to be big shit in the 70s, and she was getting all the money for it, and it turned out to be a complete fraud. But she was a trans woman, right? And she transitioned, and there was just this whole idea of a man dressing as a woman. It's like, that's being a fraud. Like, you're trying to fool men into, having sex with you or whatever. This kind of idea. And women get killed, and they have been killed. I mean, yeah, trans women have been killed over men seeing that they happen to have a penis, go ape shit.
Yeah, that's happened more than once.
And then they try to have this defense, which I've heard this. I don't know. Some states have passed things where you can't use this defense, but I think it's a lot of places you can still use that as a defense. That is like this kind of, I lost my shit because I saw a penis.
Like a hysteria of sorts, where it's like, oh, I wasn't in my right mind because.
And it's
whatever.
it's this idea of like, it's, of course, when you get right down to it, it's just nothing but patriarchy, toxic masculinity, and all that bullshit. It's just
Christianity.
Well, that's part of it too, but
It's
I
a
mean,
big part of it.
it plays a role, but I feel like some of it is just, like I said, the idea of a man being feminized by being a 6'2" dude somehow transitioning into a woman somehow is threatening to your masculinity. So you can't fucking take it. That's what we're looking at, and I don't know how you overcome this puritanical. This country is so fucking puritanical. I think they're just going to have to die off. Everything just die? Old people just die.
It goes back to the attack in Atlanta. Like, the guy thought he had some kind of disease, and it was like, he's just a man and has sexual desires, but it's bad according to his church. And so he targeted marginalized people because of it.
And it's we've all had bad days or struggles, right? And it's like, it's not normal or a defense. Like, that guy didn't just suddenly randomly decide to go target these Asian women. Like, he clearly already thought less of them for some reason and had some sort of disdain, in my opinion, because you don't you already have a violent tendency. You already, like, why wasn't it the random person outside his house? Like, I think one of the big things that ultimately, I do think the dinosaurs will have to die out for culture to change. But I think one of the big things that really needs to change and can be somewhat changed in the present, meaning like in our lifetime and then beyond, is the idea of like machismo and like manliness and stuff like that. Because it's all like, the lumberjack, red meat, har, beer drinking stuff, like that being considered manly doesn't make a lot of sense. Because
lumberjacks. We had Buddy the Lumberjack on last week, sir. Last episode was Buddy the Lumberjack.
But
he's a lumberjack and it's okay. He even dressed up in women's clothing. Okay? Leave Buddy the Lumberjack out of
I'm sorry, no offense, Buddy. I love you.
I do want to say, if we want to go out on a positive note, Dr. Rachel Levine confirmed as next Assistant Secretary of Health. First ever openly transgender federal official confirmed by the Senate. And the first two comments on Twitter, of course, anti-trans. But hey, it's okay.
Now, I do want to say, and I feel this is important. Representation is important. However, I do not want tokenism. Give her real power. Give them real power. Don't just do it because they happen to be trans.
It's like, just create a position so they're there on paper but can't really do anything.
It's Assistant Secretary for Health and Human Services.
Right.
It's not like
I'm not saying
cabinet position. It's like,
No, that is true. That is
valid. I'm not saying
Obama would have
particular.
probably done. Since this is the official Obama third term, we'll see how it goes.
It's
no.
I do
I know.
I do think in this regard, maybe more so than other demographics of people, like having trans people in genuine positions of like power and decision making,
get off,
will normalize. Trans people for some people that are, they might have some not great or strange or they're confused ideas about what trans people are and who they are. I think the more that they see it, that's the way that most people for now are probably going to get exposure to interacting with an actual trans person instead of just a news article or something like that. If they give press conferences and like actually see them as a person instead of like these things that are
Right,
in
and
society that we
that's
talk about,
where we see these elected officials. We're seeing them throughout the country,
which is
and
awesome.
when you're elected, to me, that's important, right? I'm not saying I'm not saying that's not important, but I'm saying when people elect somebody, that means they recognize them as like I hate to say like a legitimate, like they're not legitimate. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But it's
No,
like
but
a real
they don't view
person.
them. They don't view them as legitimate people. It's like, but look how long it took us to get a black president. Like, and look how long it took, like, to get a female in the White House that wasn't like an appointed cabinet member or like some like staffer. We got a vice president, and it's like we can critique, Obama and all these people on their merits, but it's like for that to happen, like it took a long time, and it's kind of a big deal, like in that regard, that people actually like if you went back 50 years ago, there's no chance in hell either of them would have ever been
Oh
elected
no, I
for
totally
anything.
agree. I totally agree.
So I do think it is a big important step for, everybody, but really like trans people to get openly trans people to be appointed to important things, so people can actually see, that they are people and not like some like weird idea of like a deranged pseudo person that they might have in their head. I think that's definitely a big deal. I was very happy to see that she got appointed.
All right,
And
so I
confirmed.
think we're keeping Zach up past his bedtime.
Oh,
But
yeah.
as a final word on this whole issue, and this isn't even the worst. One state, like he said, Georgia, is just craziness. Going around feeling on people's genitals, which I wish a motherfucker would again. But
Yeah.
only thing I will say, and this is I don't think this may make a difference, but Nashville is a pretty big city with a lot of corporations here, and they love that money. So yes, I know it's not altruistic, but they still got we got Nissan, we got a lot of healthcare providers here, Bridgestone. I mean, there's a lot of people here that can try to push for this, and we'll see if it does any good. These little rednecks probably don't fucking care. They don't give a shit. They're set. They got Billy Bob Joe supporting them, so they don't fucking care. Probably got the Klan. They probably got the Klan just hanging out at their house. I don't know what's fucking happening.
Okay.
Who knows? Who knows? They're probably still there, hanging out in the basement. I don't fucking. They're having Klan games. I don't know what's happening. But anyway, hopefully, I don't know. They're just a cornered rat. A cornered rat is dangerous, right? And that's what's happening. The culture wars are getting to the point, man, where it's gonna get ugly. All right?
It is.
But
it's gonna get real bad.
hopefully we can do something. I don't know.
But honestly, it's the inevitable. You have two choices. You can just go along with it and do absolutely nothing, which is going to get real ugly then anyway. Or you can at least put like a positive forward momentum towards something. And if it gets ugly, it gets ugly. But at least it's on the terms of like doing something positive moving forward. Because there's no way it's not going to get ugly in either direction. So it might as well get ugly for a good reason.
Yeah.
I mean,
all right. Well, Zach, why don't you plug your shit? Who did you have? Didn't you have the Friendly Atheist dude on recently? Him on.
Yeah, I had him at Meta, and then I had his co-host Jessica Bloomkey, who actually started the Friendly Atheist podcast, was on God Awful Movies this week. So, yep, got some good guests coming up shortly, and it should be good since I missed last week. It's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. We missed last week.
It's really tough when you look at your Twitter and it's Scott Adams saying how much he likes Ted Cruz, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's too late for me to be looking at this. Yeah, my brain can't handle it.
that's all.
I remember when I was like, oh, I'm going to cut out and Xerox some Dilbert cartoons. That guy's funny. And it's
him. Yeah.
Terrible human being.
Xerox. Oh, Xerox. Anyway, so thanks for coming on. Thanks for having beer and bringing more beer up here, which you're going to do soon. I'm using the Jedi mind trick.
Sometime this year.
sometime this year. Motherfucker, that I don't know.
You go see some more soccer, yeah.
You better get those shots. Get those shots so you can come down here and have some beer. We already
I've had one. Number 2's coming in a couple weeks.
Wait, how, you guys each got one?
Yeah, I got one. Yeah.
I'm still not eligible.
Oh yeah, you're young.
I don't know what I know that it's like when you're getting tickets to a concert back in the day. It's like that's what my wife's been doing. So yeah, she found a place about an hour north of us, and we went last week.
I'm overweight and I have high blood pressure. Well, I'm obese and I have high blood pressure. Although they just won't check. So I mean, but I didn't want to do it just because there were other people. But people told me that shut the fuck up.
Oh, you should if you have a chance to do it.
I did hear officially from our governor here in Maryland that they anticipate in May opening it up for I think it was 16 and up or 18 and up. So
they're pushing. I tell you what, Biden is really doing. The Biden administration is really doing well getting the vaccines out. I will say that,
dude. They did 100 million people in his first 57 days.
Yeah, so I mean,
they're doing like 3 to 4 million a day now.
Whatever else you might say, in this particular instance, I think it's a success. He's a success in this. It's a specific policy.
Get your vaccines.
Yeah,
they're safe. They work.
Don't be guilty like me because I'm like, well, maybe somebody else could just go get the goddamn vaccine. Get herd immunity. Make sure though that you tell them you want to talk to Bill Gates with the microchip, because I had to make sure about the microchip.
Yeah, get the tattoo.
Yeah.
See, I promised a little Soros cash, so I think I get X-ray vision.
See, that's what I wanted.
And I can toast bread with my mind.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the Soros cash, buddy.
That's right.
Well, Zach, thanks for coming on. Lyman, thanks for showing up.
You're welcome.
He showed up. Come on.
I know. I get
props.
I have been consistent for a while now.
Consistently late, but consistent.
You know what?
Okay.
I make an entrance.
True.
Jesus Christ. Now that he's got like a tweet, they got like 3,000 hits. Now he thinks he's Mr. Important. Look at me. I know fucking Patriot takes and Devin's cows. Whatever. Anyway. All right. You got any final words, Zach, before I turn this motherfucker off?
I think I'm good. Good to talk with you.
And Zach, you got anything important to say, or you just want to be? That's a no. He'll just wait till I say my part. Oh, did I say Zach Lyman?
Yeah, I know. I was like, I already talked.
Yeah.
The man is high on Coke Zero, so watch out.
Get your vaccine. Don't be shitty toward other people, and do something nice for somebody. That's my takeaway.
Bullshit. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Go kneecap a transphobe. That's what I tell you.
I won't say you should not do that.
Okay, I had to work that out in my head. All right. Well, y'all know what's coming. Until next time, y'all take it easy now, okay?
Bye-bye.